Hello, this is Jamie Adams with another installment of Schizophrenia and Buddhism. In my life, it tends to be, I'm thinking about writing a book, and the tentative title is going to be Schizophrenia versus Buddhism. So, the voices I hear are very confusing for me. I've followed them blindly like they're God for about 13 years and would go through a cycle of, let me try and explain this, a cycle where the voices and myself, my little being in the voices would be up here like this, and I would follow them blindly. This cycle lasted a couple months at a time usually, and I would start not liking them because of the selective compliments and insults that they would give me. So my mood would go down like this: fight, fight, fight. They're up here still: fight, 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 down to the end. And at the end of the thing, all I had left, I didn't hate the voices. That's how it started out. But then at the end, I would hate myself, which is all you have left with hatred, basically. All I had left. So that cycle now is going much faster. It alters throughout the day now, a few times a day. So I think we're getting closer to realizing or understanding the truth or fiction of these voices. I can't say they all come from me, my subconscious mind. Sometimes it seems that way, and at other times it seems like, I'm just going to listen to that voice. It seems in regard to aversion, which is one of the chief afflictive emotions. I was talking about greed, aversion, and delusion. So delusion, especially for a schizophrenic, can take on different forms. Like you have to, many of us believe we have to save the world, right? And I've been living with that for 23 years since I first became sick. So that sort of puts pressure on me. And, even if this is all imaginary, I've got to be honorable to myself and not slip into, that's false, I don't give a shit. Let's just fuck around and drink and stuff like that. Even if this is all false and part of my delusion, I have to face up to it with honor just so that I can feel good about myself, right? Even if it's a total lie, right? And if it's true, then I guess it's just, that was chosen or something, and then I have to deal with that. And this puts an immense amount of pressure on me with these voices. So I found that when I'm pure of heart, the voices are good and lead me into the proper direction in regard to emancipation and purification. And then when I'm confused or angry or hateful, I haven't got rid of that. So those things are lingering defilements, which I work on, which are exemplified by the voices, which is in turn difficult for me. I've also explained to whoever might be listening, I feel other people can hear these voices. I'm not sure if it's true, but if you're listening, the one... and if I piss you off, which I really don't mean to, I was trying to wake people up in the fastest way I knew how, and it was sort of reckless, and I apologize profusely for my recklessness and my crappy attitude at times. I'm rather rude. I'd have to say the illness has made me this way, and blindly listening to God and then rebelling against the voices. It's sort of been a rebellion against the intergrown fabrics of society, which I sort of don't trust or like, or I see fault in them, but that's not the main problem. The problem here is to come to terms with the voices and achieve enlightenment, so that I can spread enlightenment to other people. That's my goal. It always has been in my psychiatric profile. This has been going on for years and years and years. It's a clear, definitive documentation of my intentions and my confusion around the voices. And the main thing I'm focused on and happy about is I no longer want to drink and hide out in self-pity, like, this is too much, I'm going to drink. I think my responsibility now to myself and my family and everyone else outweighs the importance of forgetting about things. I'd always drink alone, and just forget and go through nostalgia. And, I tried to drink a couple times this year. It's now March 10th. I had about 10 beers since January, which is awesome for me. Anyways, my brother, I've sent email. He worked overseas for years, 15, 16 years he's been overseas as an expatriate. And I sent him emails. That's how I learned how to type, was sending him emails through the thick of my illness, all the shit I went through. I sent him emails. Now, I didn't know this, he told me this a couple years ago, that he had every email I ever sent him in a iCloud, or stored somewhere on his computer. Now, the thing that bothers me and tends to be more proof of this stupid conspiracy is that a lot of those emails have been erased. I've gone over my emails, and there were certain email addresses I had for a number of years that I wrote on, and I looked on the cloud that he has them all stored, and there was like 20 emails in one of them. I'm like, well, this is kind of suspicious, I don't know who it is, which government, Chinese or American, who decided that would be a great idea to, take away any proof of the progression of my illness in any kind of way to explain the situation as it is now. I don't trust them. Maybe I've got to just wing it. It doesn't matter. What I was talking about was the the 4 marks of existence. I thought there were 3, and I heard there was another called peace, which I didn't know was part of the market of existence, that I'm starting to incorporate into the first 3. Now, the other 3 are impermanence, which is the everlasting law of change. Everything is impermanent, even the earth and the universe, I guess, for that matter, in how many trillion, billion, zillion years. I don't know. Everything has an impermanence to it, and especially clinging to yourself, whether it be a persona you identify with voices, like me, a mistaken identity with who this God is, and what the nature of the best way to go about this is for the benefit of all. That's impermanence. And there's selflessness, which ties in with impermanence, in that in the ever-changing nature of reality, yourself is always ever-changing too. And if you cling to all these, I noticed this yesterday, and I read a bit about this, and I noticed it. I met a fellow who kind of was arrogant when I saw him, and successful, and he thought the world had the world by the balls, or ovaries, or whatever you want to call it. And I thought, I had an interpretation of that man from my prior visit with him that left an imprint on my mind as to how to view him in the future at the time that I saw him again. So, this sort of thing has to be avoided, the whole mental imprint, and going over, when you see someone going over all the things that you thought then, whether they're good or bad or what have you, and projecting that identification with them when you could be slightly correct. It doesn't matter. It's clinging to that, and as some sort of definitive value that he has. He's ever changing. Maybe he doesn't realize selflessness. I don't know. I don't either. So it's not. I mean, to comparison is a trap we all fall into. And comparison, I compare myself to my brother, who is a dynamo in every which way. And I try not to. They say that comparison is the near enemy of loving kindness, I think. And loving kindness, and then you compare, and whatever. There's I'm talking about the marks of existence. The other one is suffering. So suffering, we all undergo suffering. The suffering of change and not wanting it. The dissatisfaction of our reality that we're always trying to make perfect. There's the suffering of actual pain, which is difficult in itself. And there's suffering of change and suffering of attachment and aversion. There's many sort of things that, like, you could be living a perfectly happy life and be on top of the world, and like my brother actually, and be dissatisfied in ways that you're not even aware of how to heal, or that they're even can be healed, or you ignore them and say that's human nature, like I was saying before. Like, many people accept anger and hatred, which are basically defilements that can, when worked upon, can be diminished gradually, thought by thought, minute by minute, day by day, month by month, year by year. If you work in that direction, you can weed out the afflictive emotions. Fear is the big one with me, with the voices and the reality. I kind of seems like reality for me. So fear and doubt are one of the greatest weapons of that an enemy would use against you, or your own mind might. Like, I kind of go into fear and doubt because I'm afraid of facing up to my own strength and power or something. I don't know, like who my real nature I'm sort of afraid of sometimes, right? I was saying that our true nature is obscured by clouds, if you can use the analogy of the sky, and we're looking at the clouds saying that's me, but then when the clouds disperse, you see this universe or sky, spacious, brilliant, free sky that is actually the true nature when you get rid of the clouds. Now, a lot of people don't believe that, and they say, this is our human nature, this is me, and you attach that, like you attach it to the person you have an attachment with. Sort of like I was saying, the guy I saw who I attached the image to, you look at yourself in the mirror and you attach all sorts of things to your personality or your character, and the whole thing about selflessness is to let all that go, as a reference point, yourself continually as comparison and things like that, and live without that. But we've struggled for eons. If you study Buddhism and the cycle of rebirth, birth and death, something carries on from lifetime to lifetime, and they say it's the thirst for existence, for yourself, which is actually not really cool, because it keeps you on the cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. So my goal is to understand these voices, my little place in the world, eliminate those defilements of aversion and attachment, and realize my true nature and become enlightened, and spread the word with the whole enlightenment thing, because I believe our humanity has, if you look at the Buddha or Jesus or a number of other enlightened people, I'm not excluding women, I just don't know too many of them written down in his history. Anyways, they're women masters who I know bits and pieces from. So they're not neglected, they're an integral part of the whole scenario. It's not just monks, it's monks and nuns, or lay people. But my point was that I believe that we all have the ability to be like Buddha or Jesus, or like Jesus even said, I've heard a few times with people who know a fairly accurate, more accurate than some, in regard to the two true teachings of Jesus, and that he said, we at this time, like, we will have more power and love than he did even 2,000 years ago. And I believe that that's possible for all of humanity. I think if Jesus could do it and Buddha could do it, we can do it. And I see a lot more potential within the spirit of people, that we're going to be able to do that. You have to believe in that. It's hard to believe in sometimes. It seems impossible to a lot of people. But, if Buddha and Jesus did it, I believe we can all sort of get the dust out of our eyes and penetrate the clouds in the sky to see our true nature and become enlightened beings, every one of us on the planet. That's my dream. Sometimes I take it too seriously. I've got to pace myself. This is the whole message I'm hearing from the voices. But yeah, that's what I believe, man. So believe it or not, I'm on right where we should be at this point. So, oh, the other market of existence, the fourth one that I forgot or didn't know existed, but I read recently, is peace. So, trusting that that is actually a law, instead of just suffering, impermanence, and selflessness, there's also peace, which is tremendously refreshing. That is one of the market laws of existence. So, with that said, I'm going to post this, and I wish you all the best. Stay out of the darkness as much as you can and turn it to light. I like to think of it as horse manure, which is like food for transformation. It's horse manure that stinks at the beginning, but the more you churn it up into your garden, your mind garden, or your life garden, or the community, or the nation, or the globe as it expands, you include everyone, and churn that up and get a good garden going, and keep plucking the weeds if they come out. So some people say don't plant your flowers in my weeds. Well, if you want weeds, you got a lot more weeding to do. Or reading. I got to start reading and writing that story, that book, and I'll give you another installment some later date. Namaste.